Hey guys, thank you so much, and I'll go to update you about the video over here, guys, about Tom Lee calling the bottom. But before I play the video, let's go to see what's going on with Spy. So Spy, guys, pounces on support today. Remember this support? We remember the time when Spy hit the top here on 613. We had the support here. After we break that support, remember we pounces between these 4 days. We pounces, but when you break it, we come down, and we came through this button. We pounces around 547. We moved to 58 here, and then we pounces today. So guys, I think this is the bottom. Also I can call, because this one it was unexactly, remember it didn't reach here, but today he hit and then it bounces around 546. And let's go to listen Tom Lee.
Research at Fundstrat and Chief Investment Officer of Fundstrat Capital, as well as a CNBC contributor. At the time, I think you were talking about some of the people that work in your shop too, some of the technical people, and you were of the view that we were at least close to making a bottom. And off camera, we were talking. I said maybe in terms of timing, it was about a month early, but in terms of how far the markets actually went down, you're not off by that much. I think the SP was down about 6%. Now looks like it's going to be, if it opens where it is right now, it'll be in correction territory again, down 10. But you have the same kind of feeling for this week that some of the underpinnings are in for a real bottom, for a tradable bottom or a real bottom.
Yeah, I mean, both. I mean, if obviously it doesn't feel this way because over the weekend futures came under pressure, but we know markets are really oversold. We know that investors have had a lot of de-risking. And this week, I think into April 2nd, investors have three things on their minds. You know, one is they just don't know what the tariffs look like. They don't know if it's going to damage the economy. And I think third, many are just a little terrified of the policies of the White House. But post Wednesday, I think markets are going to have some visibility, and that allows us to take some of the selling pressure off. So, I think it's possible that instead of us breaking down here and seeing markets under further pressure, we're actually got the right pieces
buy
for
though
bottom.
into this without knowing what's on the other side of it? That is the fundamental question that people are sitting around trying to figure out today and tomorrow.
That's right. It's an interminable wait for people because it is still 3 days and they're fearful that we could have 3 days of down 2%. But I kind of agree with Larry Fink. I think the U.S. is going to come out of this okay. I mean, Brexit's an example. You know, Brexit happened and the UK economy emerged okay. It didn't have a huge recession and the stock market did okay. So for investors today, over the weekend, we had so many thinking the economy is going to completely fall off the rails after Wednesday.
Well, people are starting to say slowing growth and persistent inflation. So you put those together and you get the stagflation. Yeah, that's death for.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of distortions of the economy now, right? Because we know people are buying cars and wine ahead of tariffs, and that's creating inflation.
Hopefully, they're not doing it the same. You know, the cars and the wine.
Do you think it's pushing up our growth numbers that we're seeing at this point between retail sales and other places, or is it too small to distort things on that great of a level?
I think it's possible economists are only dialing in the negative consequences so far, but not the positive, because rates are down and gasoline's down, and there could be some pull forward in demand. So we might end up having better growth, so less stag, and maybe the inflation stuff is more distorting, and so it's not as stagflationary.
You've had some of your recent calls that turned out to be prescient, bullish calls had to do with inflation not being as bad as people feared. Is that still what you think? Because some of the numbers have at least given a head fake that maybe it's still around, and you throw in tariffs. We just heard what Goldman Sachs say, a half a point higher on the PCE than they thought previously, and 3.5 on the PCE is not going to.
I mean, yeah, it's interesting because Goldman did raise their inflation forecast, but then they're talking about more rate cuts.
I know, which is because of growth concerns.
Yes, and I think we'll have a glimpse of what Fed Chair Powell's thinking because he's speaking Friday after the jobs report, and expect. I mean, I think that's what was revealed after the March FOMC meeting, and not that I'm saying it's going to put a reversal of markets here, but I think investors are a little too scared heading into winter.
Bitcoin's testing recent near-term lows, I guess, again. It's been under 80. It's not quite there yet. It definitely is a risk-off trade, and when the NASDAQ goes down, Bitcoin seems to go down, but it also really likes the idea of more Fed rate cuts or the Fed being more lenient. So if we get that on Friday, is this a decent time to be stacking?
I think so.
You do at 80.
Yeah, I think part of this was Bitcoin seasonally was just not going to be attractive until after March ends, and now we're finally exiting March, and so I think not only is the calendar looking better, but as you're saying, the Fed and central banks are easing, QT's ending. I think that with positive Washington sort of tailwinds means I think Bitcoin can do well to the end of the year.
Right. People love it when I ask you what your year-end target is on Bitcoin, because it makes people very excited.
Yes, and I mean,
one crazy high again.
I think it's still 150.
So guys, when I was doing this video right now, I show you about the SPY. You see this SPY, guys, is going to cap up. It bounces at the support. Remember, it's not going to break that support like an easy break downside. It's going to push at least we can have a relief. Yeah guys, thanks so much and have a nice day.